Welcome to Trauma Bay. There's something strange that no one wants to admit out loud, something dark, something we tuck away behind moral facades, but it lingers. And it's this. People, whether they like it or not, are often drawn to the pain of others. It's in the way we slow down at the scene of a car crash. It's in the way we binge true crime stories or secretly savor watching a villain fall apart. And sometimes, it's in the way we feel a twisted satisfaction when someone we envy finally breaks down. The question is, why? Why do people enjoy watching others in pain? The truth is more uncomfortable than we're ready for, and it has roots deep in human psychology. First, let's start with one of the most ancient instincts humans carry, the survival instinct. Thousands of years ago, watching others fail, suffer, or fall into danger served a crucial purpose. It was educational. When someone in the tribe ate the wrong berry and collapsed, you watched and learned. When someone challenged the wrong leader and was punished, you watched and learned. Pain, when seen in others, became a survival tutorial. Our brains evolved to pay attention to it. But over time, this survival mechanism took on other dimensions. It didn't just teach us, it began to feed something else inside us. One of the darkest psychological concepts tied to this is called Schadenfreude, a German word that literally means harm joy. The pleasure we get from watching someone else suffer. It's not always loud or obvious. It can be subtle. A smirk when your arrogant coworker gets called out. A sense of justice when a celebrity falls from grace. A feeling of balance being restored when someone finally gets what they deserve. But here's the twist. That sense of deserving is often just a story we tell ourselves to justify the feeling. Carl Jung believed that everyone carries a shadow, the hidden, suppressed, denied parts of themselves. The parts that are jealous, angry, vindictive, insecure. And one of the most common ways the shadow reveals itself is through projection. We project our denied emotions onto others and then feel relief, even pleasure, when those people suffer. Why? Because their pain makes our own darkness feel valid. It allows us to keep pretending we're the good ones while silently enjoying the suffering of others from the safety of our minds. But it doesn't stop there. There's also comparison. Watching someone else fall makes people feel like they're rising. If someone breaks down on social media, people are quick to screenshot, gossip, and judge. Not because they care, but because it gives them a momentary feeling of superiority. In a world obsessed with competition, watching others lose becomes a way to win without effort. Their fall becomes your illusion of elevation. Psychologists have studied this. In one experiment, participants watched a person win a prize and then later fail embarrassingly. The people who envied the winner felt the most joy when they saw them suffer. Envy turns pain into entertainment. The deeper the jealousy, the sweeter the downfall looks. And now, we live in a world that monetizes this. Reality TV thrives on humiliation. Viral content often features people being embarrassed, attacked, exposed. Cancel culture turns pain into performance. The algorithm rewards outrage, and people click. Not because they're evil, but because they're curious. Because deep down, suffering grabs our attention faster than success does. Because we relate to the cracks in people more than the perfection. Sometimes we enjoy watching pain because it gives us relief from our own. When life feels unfair and we're silently struggling, watching someone else break can make our own burdens feel lighter. It's like our mind whispers, "At least it's not just me." It's not joy in the purest sense. It's a form of coping, dysfunctional, but very real. There's also a psychological concept called catharsis. In ancient Greek theater, people watched tragedies not to feel worse, but to purge emotions. Seeing a character suffer, grieve, or die allowed the audience to feel emotions they had buried. Pain becomes a mirror, and through watching, they are emotionally released. This still happens today. That's why people cry during movies or get emotional watching strangers tell their stories. But the line between catharsis and voyeurism is thin. One heals, the other feeds something darker. Let's not forget about control. When people feel helpless in their own lives, seeing someone else suffer can oddly make them feel powerful, even if it's just emotional power. Watching someone else lose control over their life becomes a substitute for the control we lack in our own. It's like the mind thinks, I may be broken, but at least I'm not as broken as them. It's shallow, but it gives temporary psychological relief. And then there's boredom. Yes, boredom. In a world overstimulated by content, sometimes people seek extreme emotions just to feel anything. Watching others in pain becomes a way to escape their own emotional numbness. It's not always malicious. Often it's a desperate search for intensity. And pain, whether it's emotional or physical, has a way of jolting us awake. But this curiosity can easily become an addiction. Just like horror movies create controlled fear, watching real suffering becomes a loop. It starts with curiosity, then turns into routine. Eventually, people scroll endlessly, watching trauma, violence, breakdowns, not even realizing how desensitized they've become. What starts as interest turns into a craving, not for empathy, but for sensation. It's important to understand that not all pain people watch is cruel in intention. Sometimes we're simply trying to understand the human condition. People are drawn to darkness because it reveals truths that the light hides. The rawness, the reality, the vulnerability. It connects us in ways perfection never can. And sometimes people watch others in pain because they care, because they want to understand, to feel less alone, to offer silent solidarity. But when it becomes entertainment, when someone's suffering becomes content, and their downfall becomes a meme, that's when we've crossed into something else. In these moments, we need to ask, are we connecting or are we consuming? Because if we're honest, there's a fine line between empathy and exploitation. And that line is shaped by intention. Most people will never admit this to themselves, but the truth is, there is a little part inside almost everyone, a shadow, a scar, a secret, that finds something satisfying about not being the one who is breaking down, something comforting about being the observer, not the victim. And this is the dark truth of human nature. We are fascinated by suffering, because it teaches, it relieves, it shocks, and sometimes it entertains. But the moment we stop seeing the person behind the pain, the humanity, we lose a part of our own. So next time you feel that pull, that curiosity to watch someone fall apart, whether it's online, in public, or in private, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me is watching? The compassionate one, or the shadow? Because the answer will reveal more about you than anything else ever could. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real reason we watch. Not to learn about others, but to finally see ourselves